Kid, they were talking about, $250 million budget and all this stuff going on. Then all of a sudden, sometime in the 80s, things transitioned into the billions. And then one of the senators said, if someone remembers who it was, tell me, billion here, a billion there. For too long, you're talking about real money. Remember that statement? It was all over the news for a while. Well, now we're throwing around trillions. So I'm sure you guys have heard some of these statistics before. And last time, Percy was kind enough to get up and say that $1 trillion would fill like 2 football stadiums or something, but I don't do too good with like those spatial relationships. I do better with miles since I put a lot of miles on a car. Bills, which we don't even have in print right now, would be 63 miles long. So $100 bills would be 630 miles. So I guess you could drive from here to Washington, D.C. with $100 bills lined up alongside the road from here to there the whole way, and then you have an idea what $1 trillion is. It's just truly an astounding amount of money. Decided to do some fun math this afternoon. It's 2011. You know, I even did the math wrong. I did 2012 instead of 2011. I went back to year zero. I guess Jesus was born, 3 years before or something like that? I don't know. Let the historians argue about that. But I went to zero. It's like, I wonder what happened if we spent $100,000 an hour from year zero to 2012. We would have $1.7 trillion. That's $100,000 an hour for 17 million hours. There were 17 million hours between then and now. To give you an idea of what kind of money we're talking about. Now, our national deficit is closing on 15 trillion, according to our twisted accounting methods that they have out there in Washington, D.C. If y'all haven't heard of hedonics and some of these other weird things, feel free to look on YouTube for some videos on the Fed or the national debt, and you'll learn all kinds of amazing things about how they assess arbitrary values to how a television or a computer changes from year to year to make the national debt look smaller than it really is, and according to GDP and things like that. So I just become astounded when I think about some of these things, and I start to wonder, what's going to happen to our country? I mean, what's going to happen to my kids? I've got a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old. 14-year-old's back there. 17-year-old's busy off earning some money babysitting right now. What are they going to do when they're 30? What happens when they want to try to buy a house? And this national debt has came to destroy their lives. I mean, what's the end game? What's the plan with the government here? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just think they're just incompetent folks listening to advisors that are saying this money isn't a big deal. Well, I think this is a big deal. And so I'd urge everyone, please, get on the email, get on the phone with Bashan, and tell them, do not raise this debt ceiling. They're talking, Timothy Geithner last week, our Treasury Secretary, said that if we don't raise the debt ceiling, you know where he's going to get the money to fund the government? From the federal workers' retirement funds. That's no lie. That was last week, if you missed that in the news. So, and all the federal retirement fund they got for all the hundreds of thousands of federal workers, our largest employer in the whole freaking country is the federal government, and it's going to run the country, 74 days or something? It was pathetically small. Remember, we're running $4.1 billion a day in the hole, every day. And these geniuses, the children in Washington, D.C., were fighting over, what did it start out, 66 or 68 billion? And on one side of the aisle. The other side of the aisle wanted to do what, 6 billion, 9 billion, something like that? I'm like, come on, boys and girls. 4 billion a day, and you're talking about, you're arguing between a day and a half and 9 days of deficit spending cuts, and we ended up with, turns out like 300 million. I mean, a few hours, literally, folks. The big cut and all the brouhaha in Washington, D.C., the big lead news story for 2 weeks, we ended up saving 2 hours of deficit spending. We've got to call these folks, put their feet to the fire. I think we're 30 years too late with these idiots, but we got to do something now. So I want my kids to have some kind of a future. Thank you, Joe. Oh, Treasurer's report is always on the back table if you want to see it.
Thank you. Okay, that's Joe.